Well, my name's Terrance, and I'm a recovering addict, alcoholic of many flavors. I've had a lifetime of sharing my story because it's an important part of my recovery journey and process in healing and wholeness. So I'm familiar to share my story today. However, I must say the greatest challenge for me is to be able to keep it in 5 to 8 minutes because I'm actually been asked to write a book on it several times. But I'll summarize this to the best of my ability. Who I am started, and the results of my addiction started in my childhood. In my childhood, I was raised in an alcoholic home by parents who were active alcoholics and drug addicts. And I was exposed to a lot of violence in the home at a young age. And I was taken out of the home repeatedly for my own safety by various social service agencies and placed in foster homes, boarding schools, and orphanages over many, many years. During that time, I was physically abused and sexually abused in some of those homes. I've been diagnosed with chronic PTSD, and I suffered for many years from rejection because of the abuse of my childhood. Tremendous anxiety disorders. And so from those early childhood experiences, I kind of developed the core of who I became later in life, both on the negative side in relationship to my addictive behaviors, but also some of the criminal behaviors that I exhibited occasionally in my lifetime of battling addictions and overcoming what I had to go through in my childhood. So I'm going to share some of that as briefly as I can in a summary of what happened, what I went through, what worked, what didn't work, and how I see my life today in respect to some of the lessons learned in my life journey and recovery. So at the age of 14, 15, I tried to overdose on pills for the first time, and I spent 2 weeks in a mental health institution for the first time. After that, it came to light of the sexual abuse and physical abuse I had suffered in many of the outer home placements that I was placed in as a child. So in that, they started giving me psychiatric care and treatment with psychiatrists, psychotherapists. I was in treatment centers off and on from 14 to 16 years old. I began attending Alcoholics Anonymous as a young child at the age of 15. Then in the 1980s, after joining the Army to try to get off the streets of a back east city that I grew up in, Boston, it saved my life by joining the military because it gave me some things outside of the lifestyle of pain and addiction that I was getting quickly adapted to in criminal lifestyle. So I moved elsewhere outside of where I grew up. And I did okay for occasional bouts with addiction with alcohol primarily in my 20s. I achieved 5 years sobriety when I was in my 20s in Denver by going to AA mainly. I also went through adult ACA, it's called Adult Child of Alcoholics, which for me at that time actually stirred up more because I didn't have a strong treatment-based presence in my life, so it stirred up more stuff from my childhood than I could deal with, and it kind of led me back into relapse mode. I've got a lifetime of building my life up successfully in business, in family, and in the community, and occasionally tearing it all back down again because I relapse into what will help me feel better, change the way I feel, which is addictions or addictive behaviors of different types. I came out here to Grand Junction, Colorado in 1991, went through a 4-month program called the Addiction Resource Unit, and I began an 18-year period of sobriety here in Grand Junction, Colorado, during which time I built a wonderful family, a wonderful, huge business, and I became very successful in the community, and I was actually doing a lot of community work, both here and around the world. And then when the real estate construction market started falling apart in 09, 010, there were relationships in my life that started disintegrating along with the business failures. And I had a lot of hidden issues deep down inside of me that still hadn't been addressed because of my childhood. And I'm not using that as an excuse, but it was part of the process that led me back to actively using again and picking up more addictive behaviors than I had before, with gambling, with work, with even religion at one point. I just was becoming obsessive compulsive in several areas of my life to overcome the pain and the shame of my childhood. So I relapsed for about 4 more years. During that time, the A&E television program did my story on interventions back in February 2012. As a result of that, they put me through some very expensive, high-profile, nice treatment centers. I went through a couple of them. I still was not able to overcome and maintain long-term sobriety in that, and mainly because of the amount of losses emotionally and physically I was enduring as a result of the business failures. So I ended up relapsing again, and then finally got in trouble with the local law enforcement because of drugs. And I got a 5-year sentence for drug sales in 2013. And I did 4 years of a 5-year community corrections-based sentence. So I've been through the criminal justice program in Western Colorado. I've also been through their treatment programs as well. So having said all that, what has worked in my life and what hasn't? And I'll try to be brief and summarize this. I'm not sure of the time yet, but what has...
About a minute left, Terry.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Well, here's what's helped is being able to have a comprehensive, strong, community-based support system that helped me change my belief system and my identity into long-term believing that I was worthwhile saving and that I was worthwhile by changing and becoming productive again in my life in recovery. I utilized various treatments of everything from EMDR, somatic experiences, psychotherapy, strong AA and NA membership in 12-step groups. I had small men's groups that held me accountable weekly, and I went to church every week, and then I had a strong daily and weekly spiritual program. I attacked recovery and sobriety on an emotional, a physical, and a spiritual realm because I had to, all three, or I wouldn't have survived. Today, I have almost 7 years sobriety successfully. I have rebuilt the business I never thought I'd be in again. I have a new family, and I am a certified recovery life coach, helping many, many other people on this journey that through the many levels of healing, current and past traumas that I survived from, today it's about how I can impact others and help others in their recovery journey, to help them understand that they need to remember and practice daily to be intentional and purposeful in their own individual recovery. And to the extent that I am determined to be honest and free of the things of my past, accept my true identity of what my real strengths and weaknesses are in my life, accept what I can and cannot change, then I can truly live in wholeness, healing, peace, and freedom. Thank you.